Senhor professor Manuel Villoria Mendieta, seja muito bem-vindo e penso que me está a ouvir e dou-lhe a palavra. Muito obrigado, agradecendo naturalmente a sua participação como Presidente da Autoridade Independente para a Proteção dos Denunciantes. Senhor professor, tem a palavra.
Muito obrigado pelo seu convite. Como não falo português bem, decidi fazer a apresentação em inglês e falarei em inglês. Okay, so let's start in English. I have a presentation for you. I'd like to share it with you. The main objective, the main goal of my presentation is to give you a general overview of the strategic plan that the government of Spain has approved recently. But first, I would like to give you certain data about the numbers that we have on corruption in Spain, certain data about corruption in Spain. First of all, you know there are different instruments to measure corruption. For example, we have here the victimization system. You know that the victimization system is only measured by pain, but it's very interesting to understand the situation of corruption in a country. As you see here in Spain, in the last 12 months, only 2% of people surveyed has said that anyone asked her or him for a gift or favor or money for their services. That means that in Spain, the problem of bribing is very low. This is very similar to Portugal. We have very low numbers in victimization because, I don't know, probably we have a good public administration in this area, but you can see here 2% only in Spain. The numbers in Europe are higher, and if you see our health system, in our health system, the honesty, the number of people who say that they have been asked for paying a bribe is almost zero. So we don't have a big problem there, but we have a big problem concerning the perception of corruption in general. That is very different from the victimization system. Here in Spain, almost nine out of every 10 people think that there is a big problem of corruption in Spain, that corruption is widespread or very widespread. It's very similar in Portugal, so we have this difference between victimization and general perception of corruption. And third, considering the CPI, the Corruption Perception Index from Transparency International, what we have here is the perception of experts. And here you can see that Spain has suffered a big problem in the last 2-3 years. From 2023 to 2025, we have lost 5 points in this system. The more points you have, the less corruption you have. And so we have a big problem. I'm not sure why, but indeed, this is a very big problem for our country. We have lost 5 points in 2 years. That's very surprising. But and finally, we have hard data. And you can see here number of cases, a number of people accused of corruption. And what we can see here is that the numbers have decreased from the 2015 until now. We had almost 800 people accused in 2015, more than 120 cases of big corruption, and now we have around 200 people accused on around 30, 35 cases of big corruption. So in this case, what we can see is a decrease, but I'm not sure if the measurement is very good. I think we have a lot of problems measuring corruption in this area, but in general, we can say that Spain, considering the CPI and the perception of corruption in general, Spain has a problem of corruption and we have to deal with it. So now we have a national strategy recently approved, and this strategy is based on a comprehensive strategy, as the judge, Jose Antonio Muraz, the president of the MENAC, said, and as Tiago Rosa said too, we need a comprehensive, a holistic system to fight corruption. That means that we have to have preventive measures and also repressive measures. But also we have to consider not only the public sector, but also the private sector, the political parties, the judicial system, the legislative power. So we need to consider all the big pillars of the system and to introduce preventive and repressive measures together. This is a holistic project. So in our plan, we decided to follow this paradigm that the experts, academics, and international organizations have created this paradigm, and we are following this paradigm. And we have more than 30 measures, around 5 strategic pillars. The plan tries to fulfill the commitments of our whistleblower protection law and follows recommendations from GRECO, the OECD, and the European Commission. And it's very important that this system is going to be monitored and evaluated by the OECD. Now we are working with them, creating indicators, goals, not only around outputs, but also around outcomes. So we have this system with the OECD. We are working with them, creating this system of monitoring and evaluation. So we have 5 pillars. 5 pillars. One is prevention. The idea is to reduce incidents of corruption through risk maps and preventive controls. We have the whistleblower protection to ensure safety for those reporting irregularities. We have the investigation and sanction, strengthen judicial and prosecutorial capacities. We have asset recovery. The idea is trying to recover illicit obtained funds. And we have to create an anti-corruption culture promoting integrity across society. So the pillar 1, prevention and control. Well, right now in Spain, we have around 6-7 in the national government, 6-7 bodies with the responsibility of preventing corruption. That's too much. But also we have 17 different autonomous communities. We have a almost federal system, and each autonomous community has 5-6 bodies. That's not efficient. That's not effective, and we have a lot of problems of coordination. So we have to reduce to create a central body for prevention, oversight, and prosecution of corruption. And that's the idea that we have developed around the Independent Agency for Public Integrity. This independent agency will be built with 3 existing bodies. One is our body, the Independent Authority for Whistleblower Protection. Second is the Conflict of Interest Office, and third is the National Anti-Fraud Coordination Agency, which right now oversees European funds. But later, I suppose it will oversee not only European funds, but also national funds. So we have this independent agency with 3 different bodies included on it, and we will see how to manage this, how to coordinate the different bodies, and even if we can introduce more bodies. For example, the agency for controlling the public procurement that I think will be very well included in this independent agency. So the second measure is to extend the use of integrity risk maps. Right now, we have integrity risk maps for all the European funds from the MRR, facility, the Mechanism for Recovery and Resilience. But now we will try to introduce risk maps for all the different budgets of our organizations. We have to implement, to enact and implement a new open administration law. The previous one, I think we have to change it. And the idea is to promote citizen participation in prevention, but also it's very important to give the Council of Transparency the power of sanction. Right now, they don't have it, and they have a lot of problems for implementing their decisions. So this is the third measure. The fourth measure is to transform the procurement, the public procurement platform. The idea is to work with big data and artificial intelligence to prevent corruption, following the good practices that we have in different bodies in the European Union and also in our public administration. Also, it's very important, the fifth measure is to oversight senior official. That means to expand assess examination. For example, to introduce annual random checks during the mandate of different senior officials, plus the final examination. So introduce random checks, and also to introduce controls when we have indications of unjustified enrichment. So these kind of things, I think we have to implement very seriously, because we have had problems with senior officials recently, and we need to improve and to strengthen this control. And also, it's very important, the sixth measure is to the lobby regulation. We have now in Congress a law on transparency and integrity in interest group activities. This law should be enacted very soon, but we don't know, because we don't have a clear majority in the Congress right now. So, but the idea is to have mandatory registry, and also to introduce regulatory footprint reports in legislative processes. So the second pillar is the whistleblower protection. The idea is to improve reporting channels. We have now more than 40,000 different internal channels, but we don't know if they work according to the law, if they are seriously managed or not. So we need to introduce a system of inspection of internal channels and to review the design and operation of all these 40,000 channels. That's very difficult, but we will try to do it in the medium term. Also, it will be important to give greater independence to the system. For example, for internal channels, to give greater independence to the responsibles of the internal channel. They have to avoid conflicts of interest, but they have to be supported by their organizations. And for that, we are going to give them effective protection. That means that they will have the same protection as whistleblowers. All the people who work in the internal and external channels will have the same protection as the whistleblowers. And also, we need to improve the accessibility of the internal and probably external channels. So the next measure is to the protection in criminal proceedings. Regretfully, in Spain, if you report directly to the prosecutor's office, the police or court, you are not protected. That means that you are only protected if you are going through the internal and external channel, but not if you go directly to the courts or the prosecutor's office. So we have to change that immediately, and this is something that we are trying to change now. And also, we have to introduce anti-retaliation guarantees, because some people receive retaliation and we have to wait until the courts decide 2-3 years. That's not possible. We need the direct annulment of retaliatory acts, and also the possibility of giving the whistleblowers that have been retaliated proportional compensation for their suffering. We have to protect them more than 2 years. We have now 2 years only in our law, and to give them protection at least for 5 years. And also we have to give protection to the people who work in the internal and external system for at least 5 years after leaving office. And finally, we have to strengthen the sanctioning regime in our system. My agency can impose sanctions to the public service, to the public entities. We can impose sanctions for public entities, but it's very difficult to implement them. So we have to improve that now. The pillar 3 is investigation and sanction. And now the idea is to create a specialized anti-corruption sections in our courts. That means that we will have anti-corruption section in courts of first instance with specialized judges. That will be difficult to implement, but this is a good idea that we need to consider. And also it's very important to strengthen the prosecutor's office with more resources and staff for the anti-corruption prosecutor's offices. We have now 2 anti-corruption prosecutors' offices. One is for big crimes, the other is for not as serious crimes. Also, it's very important for us to change our system of the direction of investigation. In Spain, the direction of investigation of corruption during the judicial procedure are done by a specialized judge. And now we have to change that to establish an accusatory system and to give the public prosecutors the responsibility of the direction of investigations. And this is very important, although it will be difficult to implement, but it's very important, and we have to give the public prosecutors more independence if we want to do that. Okay, so we are going also to double the limitation periods for bribery and embezzlement, and the idea is to give preferential treatment to the cases involving senior public officials. It is also important the oversight of corrupt companies with harsher sanctions. The idea is to impose fines proportional to annual income or illicit profit. And also the idea is to establish a mandatory disqualification from public procurement for all these corrupt companies. And also to establish an automated blacklisting. That means to create a national unified registry of disqualified companies with automatic exclusion from public procurement. And also finally, the mandatory compliance. Right now, our private companies don't need to have a compliance system. If they have it, it's better because this is good for avoiding criminal sanctions. But it's it's not mandatory. Right now, the idea is to establish a mandatory compliance system for big companies and to establish periodic audits for these companies, especially for those that contract with public administration. So, and finally, in this area, the idea is that the ownership of shareholdings and changes in the ownership will be incorporated into the registry to improve the transparency of limited liability companies. The Pillar 4 is asset recovery. The idea is to strengthen the organization that is in charge of this with more budget and staff for the Asset Recovery and Management Office. We have to transpose the directive on recovery and confiscation, and this is something that we are going to do through our organic law on public integrity. And also the idea is to introduce administrative confiscation. That means a new preventive confiscation without prior conviction and the possibility of seizure of assets linked to criminal activity in a non-criminal sphere. And finally, the Pillar 5 is integrity culture with three big areas. One is mandatory training with programs for public sector personnel on ethics, transparency, and prevention. I think we have a project of more than 50 for more than 50,000 public servants. Right now, the National Institute of Public Administration will develop courses aligned with the state administration integrity system. We will try to introduce social campaigns with anti-corruption awareness and information on reporting channels, with messages based on scientific evidence and experimental testing. The idea is to know the nudging system and to try to introduce nudges in this area. And finally, the idea is to have an annual survey. We have now the National Sociological Institute that will conduct surveys on corruption perception and experience, and the results will be presented before parliamentary committees. So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention, and excuse me for presenting this in English and not in Portuguese, that I would like to, but it's very difficult for me. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, professor Manuel Villoria Mendieta. A sua intervenção foi muito clara, muito útil para todos nós, porque naturalmente o sistema que nos definiu é um sistema próprio. Primeira ideia que julgo que resulta do que acabamos de dizer, a necessidade de termos uma visão holística do tema, e designadamente a consideração de haver a necessidade de uma avaliação com base em informação correta e rigorosa, responsabilidade. E justamente a intervenção do professor Mendieta é muito clara relativamente à questão da responsabilização, a necessidade de haver consequência relativamente àquilo que nós poderemos naturalmente pôr em prática.